the House makes way for a referendum on equal rights.
And it does represent the continuing march of the Bahamian people towards our common and loftier goals.
History recorded in Parliament today as an overwhelming majority supports the constitutional amendment bills.
Full coverage inside and outside the House of Assembly. What's the next step in the process? And find out who voted against the bills. Also, family members agonize in the street after a man is struck down in the middle of Fox Hill. Police investigate. ZNS News on the scene. Also, Buddy Hield celebrates an emotional senior night with the Sooners. What's his next step after Oklahoma? The Bahamas tonight. The National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Every Day.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Charisma Robinson.
I'm Keishla Adderley. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Topping the news, Parliament has endorsed the gender equality bills, which Bahamians are scheduled to vote on this summer, either rejecting a series of changes to gender-related inequalities or supporting the changes, which will mark the first substantive amendment to the Constitution since it was enacted in 1973.
37 parliamentarians voted in the poll, which government required a three-quarters majority to put to a referendum. In this report, Janina Ferguson gives us a breakdown of the parliamentary vote, which followed some last-ditch efforts by supporters and opponents of the bill to influence voters.
Bill 1, which gives a child born outside the Bahamas to a non-Bahamian father and Bahamian-born mother the right to the same automatic right to citizenship as men, was passed unanimously by the 37 House members present, St. Anne's MP Hubert Chipman absent. A chorus of yes votes rang across the floor as each member's name were called.
Dr. the Honorable Kendall Major. Yes. Perry G. Christie. Yes. Dr. Hubert Minnis. Yes. Glennis Hanna Martin. Yes. Damian Gomez.
Bill 2 heard a no vote from Marco City MP
Gregory Moss.
Bill 2 seeks to enable a Bahamian woman who marries a foreign man to secure for him the same access to Bahamian citizenship. This bill also passed with yes votes by the remaining 36 members.
Theo Neely. Dr. Bernard Nottage.
Bill 3 allows an unwed Bahamian man to pass on his citizenship to his child through paternity testing, also passes with 37 votes. Bill 4, however, saw a no vote by Bamboo Town MP Renwood Wells and Marco City MP Greg Moss. The Central Grand Bahama MP Nico Grant opting to abstain his vote. The bill, however, passed with 34 yes votes, but caused the most controversy. Moss argued that if the bill is not altered, it would open the door for same-sex marriages. He referenced a number of international cases.
If it is not the intention to open the door to same-sex marriages, why not insert a simple proviso? And a simple proviso is easy to draft. It will only be that provided that notwithstanding anything contained in this Constitution, any written law or the common law, no marriages shall be solemnized or recognized in the Bahamas except between a natural biological male and a natural biological female. If that is not the intention to open the door to judicial intervention, why not include the proviso? And the refusal to include the proviso does beg the conclusion that that is absolutely the intention.
But the Marathon MP Jerome Fitzgerald maintained that laws that govern the Bahamas cannot be changed or challenged by international courts.
In the Bahamas, we ain't merging the two. So, Mr. Speaker, when you look at the issue of sex and sexual orientation, I spoke before that you cannot change your sex. Your sex is you're either male or female. Now, your orientation, you can do what you want to do with that. You can do whatever you want to do with that. That's your right. And so, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to sex and a person's sex, it's settled law. in the UK and in the Bahamas. It's settled law, Mr. Speaker. It is settled law, Mr. Speaker. It means, Mr. Speaker, you're either male or female.
He also explained why at birth could not be added.
The challenge to that, Mr. Speaker, is that under our law, we protect persons before they're born. We protect fetuses. That's how all the abortion laws came about, Mr. Speaker, protecting somebody before they were born. So if we defined it at birth, we would then have to make the amendment to Article 15. That would then, we would inadvertently, Mr. Speaker, be legalizing abortion. That's what we'd be doing, because there would be no protection under the law for us to protect unborn fetuses, Mr. Speaker.
The bills will now move to the Senate and, if passed, will be left for the Bahamian people to decide through a referendum. Janaea Noel Ferguson, ZNS Network News.
And thanks so much, Janaea. Our team coverage continues tonight with our Clint Watson.
Now, both the Prime Minister and opposition leader were among supporters of the bill. However, Clint Watson tells us tonight, while the Prime Minister is looking ahead to the benefits of the legislation, the opposition leader is lamenting what he says has been an unnecessary lapse in its implementation.
What is good for one is good for the other without distinction.
He called it the continuing march of our people to a common loftier goal. Prime Minister the Right Honorable Perry Christie pleased that the country is now 2 steps away from recognizing equality.
People of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas will have the final say in this matter and not the politicians.
Mr. Christie says the success in the vote was achieved because of bipartisanship with the opposition. The government over the past year and a half has been sitting with religious leaders to discuss the issues, and he feels the vote demonstrates to Bahamians the full effects of democracy.
The Bahamian people will have the opportunity to remove the stain that accords our women an inferior status to men before the law. And the sad reality that the leader of the opposition and myself have spoken of is that it has been more than 53 years since our women won the right to vote, but they still do not have constitutional protection against discrimination based on their sex. This must be seen as abhorrent to our fundamental values.
The opposition overwhelmingly supported all 4 amendments. Leader Dr. Hubert Minnis says unlike 2002, the opposition's vote will not change when they walk out of Parliament. He says the FNM has been in the forefront of leading equality, having appointed the first female Governor General, Speaker of the House, Attorney General, Acting Prime Minister, and Member of Parliament.
This bill today, unfortunately, is being discussed 14 years later, as we've denied many women and families their rights, which they should have had since 2002, Mr. Speaker. And we are happy that this bill is finally passed here in Parliament. But we want the Bahamian public to understand that what we have voted for here today is for them to have the right to vote for gender equality when this is placed before them.
Dr. Minnis charged that the government owes those families from 2002 who did not see the equality bills pass an apology. To this, Prime Minister Christie responded that the difference this time around is that the church was fully consulted by the government. The Prime Minister says it's time for Bahamians to seize the opportunity for a new era.
Let there be full equality.
And so it just doesn't end here. The votes must now take place in the Senate, where there must be an overwhelming majority as well. If it passes there, then it will go to you, the people, to vote on before it can become law. At the House of Assembly, Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
Well, as we've heard, parliamentarians were for the most part united on the vote, including those whose families are steeped in the fight for equality and political advocacy.
We continue our team coverage with Vaughn Albury, who talked to a number of female parliamentarians.
Immediately following the vote, female parliamentarians expressed their satisfaction with its passage. Glenys Hannah Martin, the daughter of former Deputy Prime Minister Arthur and Beryl Hannah, and Loretta Butler Turner, the granddaughter of the first Bahamian Governor General, Sir Milo Butler.
This is the first major step in terms of our Constitution, and for women and for men and for children yet unborn. This is a wonderful day, a very proud day.
It's a much long overdue process. It dates beyond the 14 or 15 years. It goes back to the day of independence, when we truly came together and we saw ourselves coming into being a nation.
Equally proud was former Senator Talita Strawn, as she sat in the gallery witnessing her daughter, MP for Yamacraw, Melanie Griffin, vote on the bills.
When I look around, so many of the other women who fought in the fight like I did, called for them and they're gone. But God has allowed me to be here to witness this day and to have my daughter sit on the front row. On the front row. With, you know, it's words can't express.
And the link with history's freedom fighters was also reflected in current MP for Sea Breeze, Hope Strawn.
My mind goes back to my grandmother, Mary Ingram, who really started the movement towards equality. And the focus then in 1962 was to get women to vote.
Mrs. Bernadette Christie, wife of the Prime Minister, insists today's vote is not just for women.
The unmarried man will now have the same right as an unmarried woman, so it's not just making women equal, it's also making men equal, and that's what we must not miss.
And MP for South Beach, Cleola Hamilton, noted the importance of eligible voters doing their part to effect equality.
I would encourage everybody in South Beach to come out and vote, support us. You are our fathers, you are our mothers, you are our children. Come out, vote.
And most people agree that passage of the gender equality bills in the House of Assembly today has been long overdue. Reporting from outside the House of Assembly, I am Vaughn Albury, ZNS Network News.